YouTube, Chris here from High Island DIY. Today we're going to be replacing a few parts on a Poolin Pro 50cc chainsaw. Here's the saw we're going to be working on today. PP 5020 AV Poolin Pro. What we're going to be replacing today is the spark plug, the air filter, and I'm going to be putting a bucking spike on it. This saw did have one on it, but since I was using the saw for milling, I took it off and put it on my other Poolin. So I wanted another one that I could take on and off of this saw. Another thing we're going to be doing is adjusting the carburetor, and you need a small spline tool. You can find this on Amazon or ereplacementparts.com, which is where I got the air filter and a bucking spike. ereplacementparts.com. The bucking spike, if you're looking for it, the part number is 530014381, and I'll put a link in the description to that part on eReplacement's website. And the air filter part number is 575296301. I'll also put a link to that. I will put a link to the spline tool as well in the description. And I'm also going to be putting a new chain on the saw today. 72LGX070G. That's an Oregon chain, 20-inch. I'll put a link to that also in the description, so you guys will be able to get all the same parts that I did. So the reason I'm replacing the air filter and the spark plug is not because it really needs it, but I've had this saw for 3 years now, and it's ran perfectly. The only thing I've had to do is minor carb adjustments, so I figured it's time to give the saw a little love, give it a new air filter or spark plug. We'll keep the old ones as spares. Another thing you might want to do if you're doing replacing small parts is the fuel filter. I pulled mine out of the tank. It didn't look like it was dirty or clogged. I'm usually really careful not to get anything in the tank when I'm fueling. So if you want to replace the fuel filter, I'll put a link in the description to that also. Alright, first things first, usually I like to clean the saw up before taking anything apart. But I actually borrowed my air compressor to my brother, so I don't have it. But I wiped a lot of the sawdust off around the area where we're going to be working on. And to access both the spark plug and the air filter, all you have to do is remove this cap off the top. Here's our spark plug and our air filter. Alright guys, what we're going to be doing is super easy. So pull your spark plug cap off, and then using the wrench that's stored in the handle of the saw, right there, pull that wrench out. Loosen up the spark plug. And I have periodically cleaned the spark plug. I have a spark plug cleaner that runs off an air compressor. It's like a mini sandblaster. So a couple times a year I'll take the plug out and I'll sandblast it clean and put it back. But the plug's not that bad. I'll clean it up and keep it in my saw case as a spare. Take our new one. And I kind of had a hard time finding this. I don't know why, maybe because it's such a small plug, but I wanted to replace it with an exact identical one, not a crossover, not a plug that's missing one of the letters or anything like that. What it is it's 859 RCJ7Y, and that's a champion. It's just a copper plus plug, not a platinum or anything like that. really small stubby spark plug. Turn a little light on here. That just threads right back in. Don't need to over tighten it, just a little torque on it. That's all it takes. Plug wire back on, make sure it snaps in place firmly. You might have to, if it's a little bit loose or sloppy, if you take the cap off and inside there, the metal, that might be a little bit stretched out. If you just take a pair of pliers and squish it a little bit, just a very small amount, then you'll get a nice positive click when you push that on. You want to make sure it gets a good connection. Next, we're going to do the air filter, and that is held in place just by this little crossbar here. You just flip that down, it lifts right out. So I'll set this back in place until I open up the new air filter, because I don't want anything getting inside that carburetor. Alright, here's my replacement one. You can see the color difference in the pleating. So after I take this old one off, I'll blow it clean with my air compressor when I get it back, and that will also go in my saw bag as a spare in case something happens to my filter when I'm out cutting wood. Take that old one off. Set the new one into place. Push that crossbar back up. And there we have a new spark plug and a new air filter. Super easy and simple, but it's saw maintenance. It'll give your saw a longer life, better performance. Cheap and easy things to do like this. Keep your saw running for a long time. We'll put that cover back on. Alright. Now I also have that new chain I want to put on. I do sharpen my chains myself. I don't take them into a saw shop to sharpen them. As you can see, my teeth are getting pretty short in the back here. They do have a few more filings in them, but I'm going to go ahead and sharpen this chain up and then keep it as a backup chain, and then I'll be putting the new chain on. And while we're putting on the new chain, I'm going to put that bucking spike on, and to do that we need to remove the clutch cover or the brake cover, chain stop cover, whatever you want to call it, and we need to remove the bar also to put the screws in place for that bucking spike. So I'm going to sharpen up this chain first before I take it off, because that's how I sharpen my chains. I sharpen them right on the bar, and I'll show you a few different ways that I sharpen my saw chains before we go any farther. Okay, so these are the different ways that I sharpen my chainsaw. If I want to get it done really quick and I'm not super worried about the angles, I'll use this Timber Tough. It's just got small round grinding stones, different sizes for different chains. It hooks up to a car battery, or ATV battery, any 12-volt power supply. The stones with this thing wear out super fast in my experience. There is an angle guide on the front of it. Where it'll give you rough guesses of your angles. If you are really steady, if your hands are really steady and you can get good angles with this, it's very time efficient to sharpen it with this. The way I usually do it, if I'm not in the shop and I'm just out in the field, like when I fuel up, I'll usually run the file across the chain just to keep it nice and sharp. I've just got these Oregon files, rat tail files, the interchangeable handle. I've got one for each saw because they're different sizes, and they also have an angle guide on there, and this works for a good the file guide helps keep you level and helps you keep your angle. So when I fuel up, I'll usually run that across. And if I'm looking to get a really precise file, like if I'm at home in the shop, if I'm filing my milling chain, or if I'm checking all the angles on my regular bucking chain if I'm worried that I got out of angle when I was sharpening in the field, I'll put this on it, and what this does is this clamps onto the bar of your saw, and then you can set the angle, you can set the pitch, and that way you'll get the exact file depth on each blade, each cutting tooth. It does take a considerable amount of time to do it that way compared to the other ways, but you're getting a very exact, consistent file on all your teeth. Alright, I have the filing jig on my chainsaw now. I'm just going to sharpen all the teeth all the way around it, and then I'm going to change out this old chain, keep it as a spare, and put the new one on. If you guys want to see a review or a video showing how to set this up and use it, set all the angles and that type of stuff, let me know in the comments below, and I'll definitely make a video on that. Alright guys, now we're going to move on to removing this cover, changing out the chain, which I have the old one on still. It's all sharpened up now. So we're going to take the cover off, remove the bar and chain, put on the bucking spike, and we'll put the bar and then the new chain back on it. Make sure your chain brake is released. Then using your chainsaw tool, loosen up these nuts here. Once you've got them loose, turn your chain tensioner in so that it pulls your bar in. Well, I guess turn the tensioner out so it pulls the bar in. It'll make it easier to get it lined up when you put the new one on. Okay, there we have plenty of slack in the chain. Now we can finish removing these nuts. Alright, now this cover just pulls right off. Remove this oil guide plate. Slide your bar all the way up against your clutch, then take your chain out. Then we can save this chain. It'll be our backup chain or our spare chain. I'll keep it in my saw case with my saw. Then we can go ahead and pull our bar off. And right up here, this is where the bucking spike is going to mount into. There's a screw hole here and here. They provide the two screws. Simply line it up with the holes. And put the screws in. They just thread into plastic, so you don't want to over tighten them. So make sure they're tight so that they don't vibrate loose. Alright, once your screws are tightened down, we're ready to put the bar back on it. And the new chain. Alright, so I'm going to put my bar back on, same way I took it off, and slide it all back against the clutch. Take my new chain. If I can get it untangled. It's always the funnest part of changing a chainsaw blade. Alright, there we go. Make sure your cutting teeth are pointing forward. Slip it behind the clutch. Lay it under the bar. Pull your bar out a little bit so it lays into the track. We can put our oil directing shield back on. Put this cover back on. Make sure everything lines up, including the stud on your tensioner. And then you can put these nuts back into place. Take our chainsaw tool and just snug these up. We don't want these tight, because we still need to adjust the bar for tightness. Okay. Now we're just going to turn the tensioner screw in the front until the slack comes out of our chain. Okay. Now, what I do is I take the chain and I turn it a few revolutions so that I make sure that it's into the bar correctly and also seated on the clutch correctly. And I might have to readjust the tightness. There's a little bit extra slack to take up. A little too tight. Go a quarter turn back. Now another thing, whenever I tighten my chains, I always put something through the hole in the front of the bar and lift up, because when you're cutting you put a lot of down pressure and there's a little bit of play in the bar. So by tightening with the chain or the bar all the way up, your bar isn't going to move while you're cutting, and loosen your chain. So I'll put something through the front of the bar and just use the weight of the saw. You can see there's a little bit extra slack on there now. So we'll go another quarter turn or so. That looks pretty good. This being a new chain, there is going to be some stretching. So after, 10 minutes or so of cutting, we're probably going to have to re-tighten it, but that's no big deal. Now we can tighten up these bar nuts down here. And that's about it. The only thing left to do is to adjust the carburetor with the spline tool. Since we put a new air filter in it, the air fuel mixture is going to change. So we might have to adjust our low speed and high speed screws on the carburetor to make sure that we get the best performance out of the engine. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer them. And we'll see you guys next time.